Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Taylor, and today I'm going to share my thoughts and opinions with you on the new offering from NUX, the MG30. First, I want to give a little context for those of you who might be new and unfamiliar with NUX. The MG30 is the successor of the MG300, a budget multi-effects unit that is very popular and sounded surprisingly good among its competitors in the low budget range. Before we can dive into the MG30 or the MG300 for that matter, we need to address the elephant in the room: white box modeling. Since that is the primary separating factor between the NUX amp modelers and other amp modelers on the market in the same price range. White box is a term taken from machine learning algorithms, and while I'm not going to dive into that topic because, to be honest with you, I don't really understand it myself, what this means in terms of the MG30 or even the MG300 before it is that NUX is trying to exactly recreate the analog circuits of the amplifiers and the effects units that they are emulating. And the end result of using these algorithms to map out the specific details of these schematics is that you end up with a digital copy that behaves much like the analog version of whatever is being emulated. And speaking of algorithms, now's a great time to go down and hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Thanks. And this usually results with something called negative feedback. So to give you an example, maybe you are dialing in an amplifier and you turn down the presence, but then you end up with a little bump to your mids. That's negative feedback. Here's what NUX has to say about it on their website. In 2010, NUX introduced 𝗧𝗛𝗂 True Simulation to Analog Circuit with the sole intention of bringing amp modeling to a whole new level. The DSP industry has been evolving at breakneck speed, and keeping up can be a challenge. We were impressed that a product like the Fractal Axe-Fx, which is curiously misspelled, had the foresight to use a high-definition 𝗧𝗂 white box algorithm to do its amp modeling, so we took note and started development on an affordable modeler with 𝗧𝗂 HD. The white box algorithm offers real negative feedback, increment by increment. NUX 𝗧𝗂 HD replicates the same playability most guitarists prefer in a real tube amplifier. Since we announced the MG300, the best budget compact modeler on the market ever, people started noticing our 𝗧𝗂 HD white box modeling algorithm. It offers you realistic amp response and playability, and now the MG30 provides you better definition from HD to 2K. So I think this is an interesting little tidbit of marketing that's going on here, because they're using terms to refer to pixels on a screen to describe the audio quality of the amp modeling, and they don't give us any qualifiers for that. Like, what's the difference in between 𝗧𝗂, 𝗧𝗂 HD, and 2K? They don't really ever say, but you intuitively know that it's better, because 2K. Now, one of the concerns that I had with the MG30, and it was certainly true of the MG300 as well, is it seems that there is a lack of amplifiers and effects in this unit. And not only is it lacking amplifiers, but it's missing one of the most widely celebrated, highly regarded amplifiers for metal of all time, the PV5150. You know, it kind of reminds me of another company that didn't include the 5150 in their unit and then made you pay for it later. Who was that? Oh yeah, I remember that. But all of that aside, with their ultra high-tech 𝗧𝗂 Axe-Fx amp modeling technology, whatever, does it sound good? I mean, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, right? And to test this 𝗧𝗂 amp algorithm thing out, I reamped the MG30 as well as the Axe-Fx, and let's listen to that real quick and see how it turned out. So you can see in terms of sound quality, while they are a bit different, they both sound really good. And while I was dialing this in, I definitely did notice the negative feedback they were talking about. Now, is that something that I prefer myself, or that I think is better than like the linear digital system? Well, not necessarily, but it is a cool feature, and it is more similar to dialing in a real amplifier than a digital copy of one. Now, I'm sure the reason a lot of you tuned in is not only to hear what I have to say about the unit, but to also hear it, so let's go hear it. Okay, with all of that being said and heard, here are my final thoughts on the MG30. One of my favorite features is the color display. This display is awesome, and I really love how they set up the user interface. It's really intuitive and easy to work with, and you sort of get this feeling that even though you know you are dialing in a digital emulation, it's almost like you're looking into a window of the analog product. I also really like the user interface on the software, and I think this is where the NUX really shines for me, is just its experience. Because at the end of the day, what sounds better or even good is really subjective to you, and in my opinion, all of the tech that's out there sounds really good, but the big thing that differentiates all of them is the user experience. And if it doesn't have a good user experience and it isn't enjoyable to play with and dial in, then it's not even worth having. And next up, speaking of the gear that it's emulating, the MG30 does a great job at recreating a ton of classic gear and putting it at your disposal. And even though there isn't a plethora of amps and cabs and effects, the ones that they chose to recreate, they did a really good job with, and the sound quality is really excellent. Third, there's also a good amount of in and out options on this unit compared to other modelers in its price range. I mean, if we take a look at the back here, you notice that there is a send and a return, there are stereo outputs, there's an output for an expression pedal, an 1/8" headphone jack, which I'm sure is appreciated by a lot of bedroom musicians, as well as an 1/8" auxiliary input if you want to play back MP3s or, you know, your FLAC lossless audio, whatever, through it. And what all these in and out options mean is it gives you a much more wide range of situations that you can use the MG30 in, like for instance with the 4-cable method. And the last thing that I really like about the MG30 is its price to performance. I really think that for a modeler in its price range, it punches well above its weight. Oh yeah, and you can play Snake on it too. I haven't done this since my old Nokia phone. But it's not all rainbows and kittens, and there are definitely some downsides to the MG30. For starters, a huge part of the marketing of this product is directed towards using a breakthrough new technology to model amps in a way that not only sonically recreates the user experience, but simulates behavior of these amplifiers as well, and I just didn't find that to be the case. With the amps that I tested, I didn't find there to be as much control of the overall tone in general, and I found that the amp tweaking to be much more subtle than I would expect from a real amplifier. And that isn't to say it sounded bad at all. I think it sounds really, really good. But when a huge part of your marketing is directed towards a competitor at a much higher price range, as a user, it kind of leaves you feeling underwhelmed. I mean, with all of that marketing talk, You would expect this to blow the Axe-Fx out of the water, especially if the Axe-Fx is just standard definition and this is 2K. But there's a huge component that's missing when you compare those two products. The Axe-Fx has a robust set of deep dive features, which I can't even mention because the list is too long, whereas the MG30 has a power amp bias. And there's nothing wrong with that, but when your marketing postures your product against another product that is in a much higher price range and it claims that it can do the job just as well, then the marketing is sort of misleading. Now, in terms of sound quality, does the MG30 keep up with the Axe-Fx? Yeah. But to be honest with you, I think most modelers keep up to the Axe-Fx within a small percentage, and again, that sound is totally subjective and it really just depends on what you like. And the last big shortcoming of the MG30 is the included IR selection. Not only do I think that the included cab selection is the weakest part of this unit, but you only get 3 4x12s. And back to their marketing where less is more, that's not really the case with these 4x12s. In my opinion, if you really want to get the most out of this unit, you should load up some third-party impulse responses, and hopefully you have some go-tos that are your favorites that you can just easily drag and drop in using the interface. And one last little thing I'll mention here, and this is true of every modeler that I ever review in this price range, is I'm just not a fan of these small pedals. In my personal opinion, when developing these products, I think that this money would be much better used in putting in like a MIDI port in the back of the unit or something like that, so that I can control this with any one of my MIDI controllers. And since it has an expression pedal port already built into the back of it, I just feel like if you wanted to have an expression pedal, you could just hook up a full-size one and it would probably feel much better than these small ones. So my final verdict on the MG30, is it worth $299 US or whatever it's going for at the time you see this video? Yes, I think it's not only excellent in terms of sonic quality, but if you compare it to other modelers in the same price range, it has a tremendous feature set and it punches well above its weight. As always, if you guys like this video, hit the like button, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.